I'm Katarina.
Julia.
David.
Cliff.
Joe.
Catherine.
Tess.
Maureen.
Adrian. Andrew. Simon.
Nathan.
Saroja.
Dean.
Josh.
Peter.
Oh. Blessings. All yours.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Well, as I said, to talk about the same old thing over and over again. Then I say, I can't teach you anything, can't tell you anything. All I do is point and ask you to look to where I'm pointing to and see for yourself. Why the hell would you want to listen if I can't teach you anything, can't tell you anything? But what I speak about is based upon the ancient traditions. Hinduism, they call it Advaita. Advaita meaning non-duality. Can anybody hear me or not hear me?
You're very soft-spoken.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, open it.
Turn it off.
Give me one.
Oh, let me do it.
Yeah. Non-duality, meaning not two, one without a second, pointing to what they point out in the great traditions that, or in a lot of the scriptures and texts talking about God or a higher power, that God is only one. There's only one God. And we think God is something higher or superior to everybody else. But it's the other way around. Everybody else are expressions of that life essence, the one intelligence energy, the godliness, if you like to put it that way. Because it's that one life essence that patterns, shapes and forms, appearance, and expresses as everything. And they tell you that also, and the great mantra is, I am that. That is what I am. That is what you are, and everything else is. The you and the I are still that. Now you can't get away from it. It's the one, what they call Sat, Chit, Ananda, Nama, Rupa. 5 factors. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, and Ananda is loving to be, or the bliss of being. And the Nama, Rupa is the name, and Rupa is the body, name and form. And they tell you name and form is Maya, illusion. It's only an appearance. But have a look at the way all the appearances are in this room, outside and in the manifestation. Implies that there is an amazing intelligence that's patterning, shaping, forming and expressing as everything. And you are that. That is all there is. And to express itself, it needs to express through different patterns, shapes and forms, as the different patterns, shapes and forms. Everything is as it is. It is that. And you know that innately. Because you don't just say that's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the room, that's the space, that's the house. Everything is that. That is you, that is me. Not the pattern, shape and form it's experiencing as, but as the one essence suffused with that intelligence energy or life that enables the expressions, patterning, shaping, forming to take place. And as I say, it's pointed out in many, many different ways, but needs to be investigated, because we've taken ourselves to be this personal entity, separate entity, an individual, and we suffer accordingly because of that. If you look at it closely, it's only me that can be fearful, it's only me that can be anxious, it's only me that can be depressed, guilty or unhappy. So me is the cause of all this psychological suffering that is going on, caused by this belief in the separate entity, the individual, the person, me. And the fear and the anger and the stress and all those things are the effects of the cause. And that's all that cause and effect really is. We call it karma. And we're all concerned about this karma. But if you look at it and investigate it and see that me, the believed in me, the separate entity, is the cause, and if you look into the cause, me, and see that the believed in me is a fiction, it's just a label we put upon ourselves, which is not the truth, which is not the reality. And if you ask yourself the simple question, can there be an effect if it's not related to a cause? Because everything functions in the opposites. And if I'm not related to the cause, me, where can the effect be? So in recognising that and seeing it for certain, I can be rid of a lot of the psychological suffering. Nothing to relate it to. It's just as it is. And what is means unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. Just as it is. We put the labels on it, and then we constantly changing it. Something comes up and we constantly changing it and adding to it, and the story goes on. Hey. We create a story about it. If it's recognised that I am that one essence, that one intelligence, that's as far as it needs to go. But look at the difference if I am the person, or I'm fearful, or I'm anxious, I'm unhappy, I'm depressed, guilty, shameful, remorseful. All these problems can happen about because I'm adding the story onto it. Leave it as it is. That. Innately you know that already because you say that's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower, that's the bird, that's the animal. Everything is already that. And we put the word on it. What do they tell you in the Bible? In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. That's all that God is a word. All things were made by him, by the word. And isn't that true? The chair, the flower, the tree and everything like that. We put the words on, we've discriminated it all with the word, you, me. There was nothing made that was made without the word. So, look at that. How many words were you born with? Can anyone remember your birth? You can't remember your birth. People can tell you they remember a birth and all the rest of it. You can't actually remember your birth because you had no words. How could you remember something if you had no words to say you were born? But you look at it and see with others how they come into existence or appear to be, and then take it that it happened, that this was me. So I had no words when I was born. I didn't pick up any words till I was about 2 and a half, somewhere around that age, when the capacity of reasoning, as the little child starts to grow, he starts to learn words from his parents, and then the reasoning comes in, and he starts to reason, work things out. This is this, that's that, and that's something else. But the word is not the reality. Take the word water. See how real it is. Drink the word if you can. Take the word fire. See if it burns you. See if you can cook with it. Take the word I or me and look at the words we've added onto that. I am Bob or Bill, whatever your name might be. I'm so-and-so, I'm this, that and the other. We add all these words into and form a conceptual image. A mental or conceptual image. It's not real. And take it to be real. We believe it. Taking it to be real, we suffer accordingly. So, but have a look at the word. Take the word water. Can you drink it? Can you swim in it? Can you drown it? You can't. Does the word fire burn your mouth? Can you cook with it? Can you heat yourself with it? So the word me, what you're referring to? This body, this mind, this believed in person. But have you investigated? Because that's another thing they tell them, that the false cannot stand up to investigation. Some of these concepts or ideas we've got, if we investigate them, they'll fall apart. And that's a fact, because they do. I know it myself, because a lot of the beliefs I had are gone. And they didn't have to be there. So, look at that word belief. You believe this and you believe that, take it to be real. Look in your dictionary, see the definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Means we haven't reasoned it out, we've accepted it without question. Isn't that a fact? When your parents told you a little Billy or little Jane or Jean or whatever it was, you immediately took it on, and you're still reinforcing it to this day. Instead of saying I am the absolute, I am the great perfection, I am the truth, as Christ told you, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the light. People thought he was talking about himself. He wasn't, he was talking about that sense of presence that expresses through the mind as the thought I am, the life essence itself. And we say, we learn these words, what do we say? Somebody asks you who you are, you'll say, I am Bill or I am Jane, straight away. You don't say, I am the absolute, I am the totality. You can't go around telling everyone you're the absolute anyway. That puts you in the funny farm. But it's so. You are that. And that's the great mantra, I am that. That is what I am. Everything is that. And that's that. Full stop. It's the end of story. But so we learn all these words and take the word to be real. And so we've got this conceptual image which we relate with using these words. All our problems are problems of relationship, relative to the concept or image I've got about myself, and whatever I've got an image I've got about you, if it's a different one, there'll be a relation to it, you know. It'll be other than what I am. And reality is non-dual, one without a second, not two. And relationship relative to is duality. So while this problem of relationship relativity is going on, we're in trouble. But knowing it's the one essence expressing it as everything, the one life, and you are that life. There is only life. That's what Nisargadatta tells you. He says there's only life. There is nobody who lives a life. Life lives on life, and out of life more life comes. Well, where did you come from? Didn't you come from the life of your parents? Have a look at that animating life essence, your pattern you call your father, enabled in that pattern through the food he's eating and the air he's breathing, and the reasoning that's going on, enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. That sperm was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. And the same thing in your mother. That animating life essence in your mother enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle called an egg or an ovum to form. That ovum was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. And the sperm swam to the ovum, knowing what to do, and penetrated the ovum. Those two bits of goo were full of life, intelligence, knowing what to do. And when they came together, it doubled that cell and redoubled and formed the little fetus, the little embryo, which is what you are today. What were you doing about it then? Did you say, I've got to grow a hand or an arm or a leg or a brain? You didn't. You didn't have any words. You didn't have anything to say anything. And when you were born, you weren't born with any words. But the little child, the life was in it, was functioning. It was functioning naturally and effortlessly. He was hungry, he'd cry, happy, he'd gurgle and make noises. And the parents would know what to do, feed him and do this, help him to grow. And he didn't pick up any words till he was about 2.5. So, the problems of life weren't there, the fear, the anger, there, and depression and all the rest of it. Feelings would come up, but he couldn't label them as this, that or the other. He may have cried or been happy, but soon get over it. Wouldn't carry it around. What do we do today? Somebody says something to you, and 20 years later you might be still carrying it around, what they said to me. And every time you see them, it'll bring up the story again. And we go on regurgitating the story again and again and again, breaking ourselves into these unhappy, miserable existences that we have. Recognise the truth. Know the truth about yourself. And that's the scriptural saying. Know the truth and the truth will set you free. You're free of these beliefs. unhappy as it's found. So something comes up, how does it work? Something comes up and you don't like it. How do you know? Well, I've experienced this before and it's good. And we want the good things to happen. Don't want the bad, not realising, as Shakespeare told you 300 or 400 years ago, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And Nisargadatta tells us a similar thing. He says, nothing can trouble you except in your own imagination. Break that word imagination down to image in. Imagine. And realise that's what we're doing. We're creating these mental or conceptual images of what we believe we are. Take them to be real and suffer accordingly. So something comes up, you like it, you want good things to go, you want to keep them there, not realising that everything is transient. The whole manifestation is transient. That body you're sitting in right now is changing right now. Not one cell, but thousands of cells are dying in it and being replaced. But we don't realise that. And so we like it, we want to keep it there. But not realising it go, and when it starts to go, what do? We resist it. By trying to keep it there, we resist it. And what's resistance? Resistance is conflict. It means you're fighting with it. You're trying to keep something there when the natural thing for it to do is to move on. And we're trying to hold it there. Resistance is conflict, and conflict makes you unhappy, depressed, guilty, uneasy. Another word for uneasiness is disease. So there's resistance, conflict and disease going on. Something comes up, nothing comes up and you don't like it. Oh, I shouldn't be thinking that. I'm a terrible person thinking that thought. I've got to get rid of it. So what do? Resist it again. Again in conflict and again disease. No wonder our life's made up of this unhappiness, fear, depression, guilt, fear and anger. Constant resistance is going on. What happens if I leave it as it is? I no longer resist. Shakespeare said nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. We want the good, we don't want the bad. Not realising they're two ends of the one stick. They're not separate. Two sides of the one coin, good and bad, pleasure, pain, happy, sad. But when we separate, trying to fixate and keep one and get rid of the other, well, you're dividing it again, dualism, and you're in trouble. But leaving it as it is, it'll change of itself, just like in nature. Look at nature. Get your information from nature. Nature meaning natural, as in nature, the natural state. Look out there and you see the earth rolling around the sun. Seasons are coming and going. Tides coming in and out. Well, the seasons coming and going, I said that. Anyway, the nature is vibrating in these pairs of opposites. Like, they're not separate though. Like this earth is facing, this part of the earth is facing the sun now, so it's light. As it rolls around throughout the day, it'll face the other way. It'll be the other end. And it'll be dark here and be light there. But does light know anything about darkness, or darkness know anything about light? It doesn't. They come about and change. Winter, summer and all the other seasons, constantly changing. But they're not separate. And that's our problem. We try to separate. We want the good and don't want the bad. And in this conflict of separation, separation is insecurity, vulnerability. Leave it as it is, unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. And it'll change. The good will come around again. Like, a good analogy is like the sun and the cloud. You go outside on a cloudy day, sun's seemingly covered over you. Would you say there's no sun in the sky? No, you wouldn't, because no damn well the sun doesn't leave the sky. It's there all the time, though it might be obscured. And then if you question further and ask yourself, what forms the cloud? And you realise the sun itself forms the cloud. Now the sun doesn't know anything about the cloud. Its vastness is so great that the cloud is infinitesimal to it, even though it's obscuring it in certain places in the world. So what happens? The sun continues to radiate, continues to shine. What's it do when it's shining? Doesn't it evaporate water? And doesn't the water rise and condense and form a cloud, which obscures it? And doesn't the sun continue to shine? And won't it blow the cloud away or bring it down as rain? And then when there's no cloud in the sky, it's a beautiful sunny day. There's more clarity there, more warmth in it, more joy. Well, the same thing's applying in this human life. This body, self-shining life essence in this body is live in there. It vibrates and forms thoughts, feelings, emotions, which obscure its natural clarity. What happens if you pause a thought and ask yourself, what's wrong with right now if I don't think about it? Get rid of the thought for a while, or don't lock into the thought. Isn't there more clarity there in the thought-free presence awareness? More clarity, more warmth in it, more love, more joy. But when we struggle with it and don't try and make it go or try and make it come, we put in the obscuring it with the clouds of concepts again. And they tell you in Buddhism, the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. That awareness without any concepts, without any... And is anybody unaware right now? No, you know you're unaware. Not unaware, you're aware. And that's another way I put that Satchitananda. Awareness of being is bliss. Or have an affectionate awareness of being. Be a little bit warm towards yourself. Recognise your true nature and love yourself. See what happens then when you realise that I already am that. And relax into it, let it be. Instead of conceptualising, trying to get out of it. The reasoning capacity can be very useful, and there are lots of other things. But all in all, psychological traumas and dramas and all the rest of it is unnecessary. For it's only me that can be fearful. Only me can be full of self-pity or anxiety and distress. If you want to keep those things, go ahead. Nothing can stop you. If you want to be free from them, you can be. And some of you know this already. And you wouldn't be here if you didn't grasp it, because you're out there and the religious things, they've got all the rules and regulations they put on, they've put all sorts of mental constructs into them, constricting it in certain ways with all these concepts and ideas, instead of seeing it as it was in the beginning. They've recognised it, but then weren't satisfied with that. They put their own rules and regulations on it, And each religion has its different rules. But realise it's the one essence that's patterning, shaping, forming and expressing through everything. And you are that. That is all there is. And you and I and everything else can only and ever be that. Because it's not divided. It's indivisible. It is not separate. It's inseparable. It's non-dual. One without a second. That's what we point to. And that's, what did I say, a lot of you know, so you can put it in different words to what I put it, somebody might hear you better. Or some of you might have questions, or doubts, or arguments, but whatever it is, you know, Kat will take over for a minute now and express it, and away you go.
I'll get you your ears down. Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Go on, get. Thank you.
Yes, so I'm just gonna say welcome everyone, and we have 20 people or so with us online, so welcome to those guys too. And this is the time when we really actually give the mic up to you to ask questions, to share whatever came up for you, or perhaps point each other to the simplicity of the truth. If something has really been digested and understood and is really simple and it really helps you, it may equally help someone else. And there is no someone else. There is all the same reflection of the same life in everyone. So it really is about finding your center, finding your heart, speaking up from it. And yes, so anyone would like to start and say something? Thank you so much.
What it came up for me is that life is a thought, and I'm just celebrating that.
Beautiful. Silence is a beautiful pointer too. It is lovely, but Bob always highlights that there is a silence in this room even when we speak. Silence never gets obscured. So this time is the time for pointing. Silence is never touched by it. We don't kill the silence by the sound. Silence is what we are, and the sound is what comes and goes. And if that sound, if that pointer happens to bring us back to the center, that's the whole role of pointers. Because what we say, it is beyond language, it is beyond pointing. So it is really just to resonate, just to find the resonance, something that responds not in the mind. The mind will argue with every word, or will say, I agree, I disagree. That's not what we're looking for. The resonance is something moving in the heart that, oh yeah, somewhat, somehow, I know that already. I know that I'm not the body, obviously the body is changing. I know that I'm not the mind, obviously thoughts are changing. I'm not the personality, because even that is changing. So what am I? Can I even know that? Can I even know what I am? How would I know it? Where would I know it from? But there is still an urge to find out, to figure out what am I? Who wants to know? Who wants to figure out? And is it the not knowing mind? The moments of joy, the moments of peace in your life when you look back and find any peak experience. Did you know who you were? Did it matter? In a moment of being taken away by the beauty, or being totally silent and one with all, the heart open. Did anyone care? Was there anyone asking, oh, but this is not right, I have to find something else, I have to find who I am? No, that narrative is gone, and this is the natural state. This is the state in which nature abides. They don't have planets, as far as we know. They don't have this nervous system creating synapses and thoughts, or animals or trees. They don't have anything that would object to the reality as it shows up. The reality is, as it is. And then we humans, we develop this fantastic operational system, this instrument which always navigates everything, and it always tries to negotiate better conditions, and it says, no, not this, there is something better. They're talking about enlightenment, bliss, ecstasy. I want that, I don't want this. But that's just a voice, that's just a narrative, that's just a noise. Without subscribing to that narrative, what's wrong with this moment? It's quite an okay moment. It's nothing wrong. And then the thought comes. I was just, because midnight just striking Poland an hour ago and a little bit, so my family, we were exchanging wishes and things, and how good was the year? Was it good, was it bad? You know, judging the year, looking back. No, it was terrible because of the war, because of Ukraine, because of this. Well, yes, if you think about it, but contextualizing a story, and of course this is not to look back and pretend that bad things don't happen to good people, or that uncomfortable and painful and stories like this don't happen. Well, if you want to, look to your neighbors, they all have traumas. Don't have to go that far. You can find suffering everywhere if that's the tendency. But the truth is, you need the story to concretize it. But direct experience knows nothing about it. In direct experience, without buying into it, you're breathing, heart's beating. Life is, it's quite peaceful, it's quite blissful, unless there is an idea that says otherwise, and that idea is being believed. So it is really about waking up from those ideas to this moment, to the reality of simple being, simple, very, very simple, peaceful, blissful sense of being. And then it becomes the mainstream, it becomes the foreground rather than the background. The silence, like Nisargadatta says, silence sings, or it shouts, it screams. It becomes, the heart goes into it, the hearts become once with it. Not with the entertainment, but with the reality, with that basic screen. So we really, what we point out is to just find where your heart is and where you want to keep it. Just fall in love with the reality rather than in the distractions. Distractions are to be appreciated. Absolutely. There's just so much to love and appreciate. But when you don't believe it, when you know it for what it is, you go to a good movie and you see there are heroes and villains, and they are, the hero's journey, they're going through obstructions, they're going through challenges, and they overcome it, and they, emerge beautiful, beautiful. All of it is fantastic. Humbling moments in life, so-called lessons in life, they all to be appreciated. They're all fantastic. But are they happening now? They can be appreciated as a beautiful story. But if that story overwhelms the reality and covers it up completely, to the point that we are dreaming and we don't even know we are dreaming, that we are in a daydream of something that is not happening, and we don't even realize that. Well, at times it can be pleasant. We can have pleasant dreams by all means. But if we habituate dreaming, well, we're out of control. As Bob often points, you can't choose your thoughts. Today you may be in a good mood, you had a good party, whatever. But tomorrow the weather is bad and the bad thoughts are coming and you're out of touch, you're not in control. If you were, you will only have blissful thoughts. Wouldn't you?
Sorry, David.
Please.
Bob, is pure awareness above, beyond the five senses?
Is the pure awareness beyond five senses?
All there is awareness. But you can't tell me what awareness is. You can only see expressions of it. And onto the awareness, the consciousness comes. And then when the senses and all the other things. Are you unaware right now? You're not. So basically that's there first. And if that life force or pure awareness wasn't there, how many thoughts can a corpse have? What can it do?
So yes, is that
Is the
is
simple
that
answer
is
yes?
that a yes?
Does it mean yes? Did you answer yes to his question?
What was
Whether the awareness is beyond the five senses.
yeah.
Yeah, you could say, but five senses are not separated because it's only one. Nothing's separated.
The five senses are within the pure awareness.
Yeah, everything.
Everything's
Everything.
within the space.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Well, just one.
Yes.
I'll come back to you.
Just on that point, and I think what Bob points out to, if there's no me, then there's no division, because if you're talking about beyond or prior even, or it's all that, it's like subtly creating another separation.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got the experience, whether it be sensorial, like smelling or whatever, it's the actuality. It's not like there's the smelling and then there's the awareness. It's the experiencing of that without a self-centre, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes, so it's the experiencing
Yes.
of everything as that without the dualistic idea of a me. And I think the beauty of what I've seen with Bob is that he's actually just pointing, and all the Advaita is actually just pointing to the actuality, which we miss, isn't it? It's not about a state or going beyond or even getting a concept of non-dualism, but rather inquiring into the nature of life itself and seeing the truth of what's being pointed to, as opposed to what we believe in, which is the whole social construct. It's not a religious, romanticized notion that we're looking at. We're looking in a very clear, almost rational, sane way to see what's the actuality, and that may be full of a particular sensation, but if we don't equate that with the idea of me and that, then it'll just, life, which it already is doing anyway, takes its own course. We're not actually made aware of this. We're not actually shown that this is the actuality. We're full of beliefs, like it's supposed to be the first day of the new year even, when really time is just a mental construct, and it's useful. But all these beliefs we have just been so accepted, and that's the kind of inquiry or challenge, isn't it? Really, that's all that needs to be done, because whether we do it or not, it's the actuality. And this is the sort of mind-blowing insight, if you like, with coming to something like Bob's, is it's not to do with any spiritual concept. In fact, they have to be thrown out the window because they're just a layer of that. But in my own experience, it does require vigilance, because the mind can really, to sort of really see that those thoughts are just thoughts and their limitation, that they are useful. The mind is useful because it describes things, and but it's only a concept, and we forget that. And then to not believe in those thoughts is a kind of a challenge. It's not so easy to not believe in the thoughts when you're out in your day-to-day life, and it's full of challenges, people coming at you and things like that. And it's good, but it's because the whole world believes in dualism. We're kind of it's challenging, but it's good at the same time.
One thing that came up during this was the pre-verbal state of a toddler, and how the things are just appearing timelessly in that state of wonder, that that everything just appears to arise and dissolve without reason, without analysis, without anything. That just that state of how things actually are. Anyway, that just arose.
The natural intelligence.
I had an experience yesterday where there was just this deep, amazing, just gratitude came up around the fact that there's these fucking senses that actually exist, and I've got these senses are happening, like the seeing, the hearing, the touching, the tasting. Like, it's so overlooked, just the absolute miracle of that existence and that functioning. Yeah, like, it feels like at the base level there's just a deep reservoir of love and peace that wants to continue open up and shine, and just continually the rays of it to pour out and open up more. But I'm nervous now speaking. But this has been on the back of the last couple of months. A lot of old patterns of trauma and stuff have had to come up to be burnt up or seen through. And it's felt like there's like a record, and there's been some imprints on an old record. Like, there's some old records that have been stored in the system. Or like some ink on a paper or something, a story that's been written, an old story that needs to have been seen and processed and seen through, like a story attached to an old me. Like, I've heard a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and I sort of buy that sort of thing. Like, there's stuff that needs to be burnt off. And this might be a story, but this has been the experience here. And when those old patterns continually come up and are seen through, the light opens up even more. Like, what you're not needs to be seeing to experience more of what you are, or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Right.
Bob wants to say something.
No, it's not like this lady is.
Yeah, this
Oh,
Thanks. Sorry. Did you want something?
I've noticed that sometimes it seems like there's just energy, and I sort of want to understand that person who wants to understand or to know that what's true. What is my imagination? Is the energy my imagination and the body's disappearing, or is it what is the real? But it seems like a habit to want to understand everything, so everybody's asking questions.
yes.
So
That's a wonderful recognition. It's a habit to want to know and want to work it out.
Yeah, that's life that wants everything. That life, the pure intelligence energy, vibrating and patterning, expressing through everything, has all the different things. And it's just that one essence, non-dual. And if it's non-dual, everything other than that must be objective. And objects are not the subject. We don't realise that subject-object is dualism. What's your next thought going to be? You can't say. But the thought, I think, comes up, the thought, whatever. As soon as you think, I think this thought, you formed a subject. And the thoughts become the object, what you're thinking. Can there be a thinker, a subject, without thinking? And can there be the object without thinking? So as Shakespeare says, there's nothing be either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. It's the thinking itself. and are in it. It's only the one essence in which the thinking happens. We look out and that's awareness suffusing through us. Everything we see is objective. The thoughts are objective. The feelings are objective. Who's the subject?
I think a nice also analogy to look at that is, because that was a really good question, you know, who is dreaming, what's imagination, what's real, energy obviously is happening, but what is that projected world around it? When you dream at night, at least what I've observed in my dreaming, you know, in the night I find myself in different situations that are obviously not happening because the body is in a bed. But there are situations, there are people, sometimes the people are mixed, you know, it's half of my sister and half of my friend and not kind of, you know, not very clear. And I never know who I am. I never know who I am in the dream. I may be kind of conceptualizing after I wake up, oh, everyone, there was all teenagers, so, and I didn't stand out, so I must have been a teenager. Oh, they were all girls, so I must have been a teenage girl in the dream. But that's only when I wake up. Being in the dream, those questions don't arise. And yet the world is fully projected, fully furnished. There are situations, wherever attention rests, there are details. When the attention doesn't rest, it's kind of a vague, but the presumption is that there is a world, and there is a body in the world, and this body does all the things. And it's all imagined. But who is imagining it? It's just the way the machinery, the electrical impulses creates the whole reality. The same thing happens when I think, like an hour ago, I was in touch with my family. I think of them, I can see my brother and my mom and everyone there, but they're not here. That's imagination. I'm imagining they exist. I'm imagining them in their world, the post that they bring up. All of that is imagined. It's really quite a big leap to actually say, this world is all illusion, it is all Maya, it doesn't exist, it's all imagined. By who? By what? It is a little bit nihilistic to say that, oh no, the war doesn't happen, people don't die. No, we don't really have to define it that black and white, because whether it exists or it doesn't exist, it doesn't matter. It is being experienced. And this is what Catherine was saying. It is about the present experiencing. What is the present experiencing? It doesn't have to be figured out all why and how the projector projects, how the machinery, which program interprets. Yeah, it's fascinating. Neuroscience is digging into it, and it's absolutely wonderful what they find out, the way that computer really creates the world and interprets the world and gives meanings and everything. By the way, Course in Miracles, lesson number 1 today, 1st of January. Nothing I see means anything. You look around and there is no meaning on anything. The meaning comes out according to my past experiences, according to everything that I've seen before, because I recognize from the past. That's how the computer works. But can we say it doesn't exist and I'm creating it? The machinery is projecting it. Or can we say it exists as a potential? Or can we say, well, really, what does it matter? What really matters, whether it exists or not exists, or is solid or is not solid, what really matters is to not even need to know or be right about any of those things, but be totally comfortable with, wow, the experiencing is going on. It's pretty mind-blowing. It's amazing. Okay, 5 senses, like David was saying, are they within? Yes, the expression of the awareness. Like one of the quotes I found when I was doing my cards for Bob's pointers, it is like a wind. You don't see the wind. There's no such thing as wind, but you see the expression of the wind. So there is no such thing as awareness. It's a potentiality for existence, but you see it as an expression. Seeing, hearing, tasting, imagining, thinking. It is incredible, and it is right here, right now. And that's again what Catherine was saying, super important. It is not to be found in future. It is to be realized that is happening right in this moment. There is nothing to gain, and there is nothing to find out or to become later. As it is now, it has always been and ever will be. It's just what obscures it, what stands in the way. And that's again, Catherine beautifully pointed out. the concepts, the religious beliefs, all those things, they can be questioned. Someone in the back wants to, yeah?
Yeah, nice. What Catherine and Kat talking about is, everything, like you could say everything is real, but the me is illusionary, apparently real, and we got stuck in that. There's a falling away. We could point to it. We can talk about it. This is why we're here. Pointing to it, and but you can't know it. It's not something you can know. How can you know everything is nothing? How can you know the unknowable? So that's a problem for the me, because it needs knowledge and knowing, and this is something you can't know. But there is a possibility that you can disappear. The me can disappear, and when that happens, it's recognized that it never happened. Everything was a story, and that's possible, you know, and pointing to it helps, you know, talking about it helps. Obviously, you know, people get benefits from it. Thank you.
Beautiful, thank you. Juliet, did you want to?
I can't claim any credit for this quote, but I came up today. I really liked it. Meaning and purpose are imaginary friends.
Lovely.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
And it kind of, or enemies. I was thinking the same thing. Imaginary enemies, or. That said, there's a friend of mine who has been steeped in Sailor Bob and some non-dual ideas, at least for a little while. And she or he, I'm not even going to say give it a gender, but was suggesting that there's a goal in the new year to have a goal. The goal, that's like a purpose, isn't it? You know what I mean? I mean, isn't that so? Like my goal, at least for a long time. I think a long time ago, I had a New Year's resolution. I resolved to have no more New Year's resolutions. The goal is simply this, you know, without conceptualizing and going into a me or even needing anything to be different. That said, you know, goals happen. Like I might have a goal to get to the airport at a certain time. You know what I mean? Or there's a fine, like it seems to be a tightrope. You know what I mean? Sometimes, like between I might get caught up too much into. I got a goal to get to the airport by this time, or so I can catch the flight. And at the same time,
they happen when you think about it. When you don't label it, it's just what's happening. Driving happens.
And that's
Airport
okay,
happens.
because that's a practical thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a psychological construct to go to the airport. You know, that's what the mind is for, isn't it? To help us do things in the world. But when we use the relative mind as a description of ourselves or the way things are, then we get into this idea of becoming or time and believe in time, whereas it's just meant to be used for the practical living situation. So all these questions that are applied, that we learn, that are applied to the practical side of life, when we use that mind to ask questions in this area, they fall short. Like, is there meaning or is there not meaning to life? Comes from the mind, which is relative, so it has no relevance because that's coming from the mental realm, and we're not aware. That's the whole thing that I've found coming to Bob's here, is that he's so very clear with what the actuality is, you know, because it's like we've got to tear apart the puzzle or the idea to understand it, And when you understand it, you can just accept it for what it is, but don't apply it to give meaning to the timeless or the absolute or whatever you want to call it, which has no name. And I think we are caught in these mental constructs, and that's all the problem is, you know, and to have that all broken apart and seen through, you do come to see the actuality of it. So,
Yeah, when the me drops away, you've still got preferences. Still, you know, I still like Bruce Willis movies, Italian food, but it's not happening to anyone, and that's without meaning or purpose. It just happens. It's just what is, and it just happens, and without meaning or purpose. So it's fucking amazing.
But you can't make that into a position, can you? We can't
Of course.
make that into a position of
Can't.
now we know about non-duality.
We can only talking about it.
Then you fall
Can
into
only
the
talk.
trap of
Keep
resistance. You know, you fall into the trap of resistance and pretense and falseness and dishonesty.
But that's what we're here.
You know, yeah.
That's all we can do.
You can never take a position of now I know. You know, because that's just antithetical to what actually we're talking about. You know, I know now. You know, that type of position.
But no one knows anything.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no one knowing.
Cliff, did you want to say? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear you say, Cliff.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, well, it's the interesting thing. It's all experience, and when you take positions on it, it's impossible to grasp, really. Like whether it exists or it doesn't exist, or it exists in potential only. You can say that about everything that appears, you know, including the me. But you know, what we think about it is based on memory or culture. Different cultures see these things in a different way. I mean, ghosts don't exist. We tell kids they don't exist. Kids might think they exist or experience them, and you know, we define reality and go, this exists, that doesn't exist, the me exists, the me doesn't exist. But all that just arises in the dream, in the image, and yeah, it has nothing you can grasp, and you think you want to explain how the machinery works, but nobody knows, and that's a cultural thing too. If you start explaining how the machinery works, you know, it has no reality.
Beautiful.
I think sometimes I just get lost a little with the practical and what's practical and what's, you know, like...
Only when you think.
Yes, only when I think about it.
Yeah.
That's like, so the thinking about it happens, so,
Yeah.
you know.
And then you
like,
get lost.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When thinking doesn't happen, you're totally clear.
I don't have a problem when I don't have the thought. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, right now, no problem.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
See how the goal of purpose arises only in the narrative. Without it, actions still happen. When you look at the cat, you see the cat just came into the room. She didn't have a purpose to come to the room. Like you didn't have a purpose to go.
Yeah, she
to
never
the
says,
airport.
I'm going to lose 20 pounds this year.
She doesn't.
She
have
didn't care.
resolutions, right? Yeah. So actions happen. They arise from a different place, and then the narrative. Half a second later, the narrative of those actions happens, and then working them out happens. So you may find yourself driving to the airport, and then the narrative says, "Oh, this is my goal. I have to make it to the airport." But without that narrative, you're still driving. Driving's still happening. The goals, the purposes, the meanings, they all happen within the narrative. And there's nothing wrong. They arise just like any mood, just like any object, like any sound. Everything arises within that field and passes away within that field. The problem is, we start digging into it. Oh, is it true or is it not true? I agree with that, I don't agree with that. I like it, I don't like it. Okay, that purpose, oh, it doesn't fit that philosophy of non-duality. Oh, it does fit, but it doesn't. Oh, no.
See, because it's been noticed in this experience that, or in my experience, or whatever that is, that when I have a plan
Mm-hmm.
You know, or like I'm going to do this, and then I have a goal, and I've got even a date, and I'm going to maybe action steps, and I'm going to do this and this. It really helps. You know, like you use an app to monitor, well, I've got a goal, I can't go above 500 calories in a day or something, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And there's your idea, and then you go up, not above that, and then you're doing I'm just fascinated about goals because it is the first of the year, and it's a time where a lot of people have goals.
Look,
So
but if you don't give it a meaning, what is ever wrong with going to school and learning to write as a child goes to school? It doesn't say, I have a goal to learn how to write, to become a writer. No, it goes to school and learns. You may have less resolution to learn dieting or to do 10,000 steps like Tanya, or do whatever if it comes up organically and you don't make a problem of it. That's what's happening. You know, ego doesn't have the goal to fly 1,000 miles, but flying is happening. If the narrative happens alongside the activity, it's still not a problem. The problem arrives only when you start having narrative over the narrative and digging it into...
Yeah, it's exactly right, because there's a narrative of, right, so you got a goal, who's got a goal?
Yes,
and who doesn't, who doesn't, so there's that, but, and that,
Moving.
okay, so that,
Yeah. It's totally not necessary. It's like nobody ever in a non-dual circle will discourage any activity. You know, if you're passionate about singing or writing books or getting better in a new language or learning to drive the buses or doing any sort of mind training, including the mind training of mindfulness or meditation, whatever is happening, that's the life, that's the energy of life expressing. And doesn't cause any suffering. You know, learning the course to paint your nails, whatever it is, doesn't cause any suffering. What causes the suffering is the story about it, and trying to work it out in the mind, and trying to fit it into what I already know or believe. Who is doing that? That is the suffering. Oh, I shouldn't be thinking, I shouldn't be doing lessons, I shouldn't be meeting my goals because that doesn't fit to this, that. No, if it organically happens, just like everything in nature, there's nothing wrong. Actually, to make it more funny, I never did any New Year resolutions because I always had an unquestioned assumption that they don't work. Because all of my friends who were quitting smoking on 1st of January and none ever did, or doing all the other things, I never tried it. This year I just jokingly said to my family that I'm taking up a New Year resolution to try a method of undoing childhood trauma, which is kind of like a little exercise. But why not? This organically arises. Who is doing it? Who gives a shit? Nobody gives a shit who's doing it. Life's doing everything. There's no one else. It's only life. Who is doing the speaking? Is it me doing the speaking? Oh, I shouldn't be speaking because there's no me. I should... No, I don't do it. Who is doing the seeing? Who is doing the hearing? Nobody does anything. There is no one there. Who does the writing? No one. And nobody gives a shit.
It just occurred to me that if the cat lost 20 pounds, that it would lose all its weight and die. Be dead.
She's 7 kilos.
70 pounds.
Yeah.
But, if you do anything 100%, there's no room for any questioning of it, is there? So
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You'll lose weight once you lose total weight. Lose the idea of losing weight. There's nothing added unto us in this realisation, though, is there? We're just realising what we already have, which is spontaneous life in this instant, enjoying things as they occur in the precipice of right now. That's all that's going on, and yes, it is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Thanks.
I remember when there was a division, there was this thing called practicality, like daily living, and this other thing called spirituality, and life became really much better when it was realised that there's not a thing called practicality, there's not a thing called spirituality, there's just now in which all of these things occur. And it just, if there's like a narrative where there's words that say I've got a goal, it's like that's what's actually appearing, and then there's a goal, and it's really no different to when you're meditating on the highest mantra and transcending into super duper consciousness or whatever's going on. They're actually, it's all the same thing, like wonderful spiritual high experiences or planning or baking a cake. It's all just this one. It's all just appearing in the same. And it's not appearing to anyone. It's just how the show is unfolding, with different little labels and embedded meanings, and it's just like, whoa, what a show!
Beautiful.
Happy New Year.
Absolutely, Happy New Year. We have a lot of Happy New Year wishes from our online community, and we have not really a question. I got a compliment from my beautiful Polish designer dress. Thank you. And I got the Happy New Year and words of appreciation from Bill. Wonderful, pointing to the absolute simplicity of all this. Great peace, love, as our challenges, wholeness. Beautiful reminder. Thank you, Bill. And no questions. Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year.
Oh, one of the things that came up after Dean spoke was that here, one of the things that occurs in relationship to the me is where all of a sudden I become corrective, or I start to have a preference, or I think things are right or wrong or black and white, is related to suffering. And what occurs right now is no one suffers. Like somehow that suffering is held in some special category, and yet suffering isn't any different than joy. It's just another appearance here.
Yes, you go.
No.
Come on.
Come on. No, I just laugh. Nothing profound's going to come out of this mouth.
Okay, I got a comment from Keith. He says, love and best wishes for everyone. And there was a lot of best wishes for everyone. So everyone getting best wishes from everyone. All one. And Jane says, the nature of the narrative is to name and claim, which is appearing on the awareness. Yeah, as simple as that. That's the nature of the narrative. It doesn't, you don't have to subscribe to it. Just see it as another piece of arising, like Dean was saying. And don't even question. I mean, if questioning happens, you're not the one who questions. It's the narrative and the commentary of a narrative, they're all appearance, they're all objects within the consciousness, within the pure subjectivity of that which you are. And if you are kind of like a curious and stepping back and fascinated, whoa, even whatever happens, childhood trauma, dysregulation, doesn't matter, whatever happens, it's like, oh, wow, interesting, mood swings, ooh, wow, not personal. This is the way the energy of pure life expresses through the available means. If the body has been conditioned this way, that's how it is conditioned, that's what comes out. Depression happens. Oh, yeah, wow, interesting. How can depression not be devastating? Well, it can. How can sadness or anger not be causing a suffering? Well, it can. It can, because you are the consciousness, and this is what arises. Beautiful white clouds are as beautiful as the beautiful, heavy, dark, pregnant with thunderstorms cloud. If you know how to look, there is no judgment. Everything's mind-blowing. And that's the freedom, because then a natural tendency, as Simon was saying, there will be still preferences as long as there is a body-mind. Well, if we eat rather Italian, then we'll eat the cat shit, eh? Of course. And that will like a smell of a perfume rather than a smell of decay. That's the body has been wired this way to survive. If it was drawn to decay and to wrong food, it would not be here for the expression experiencing. So yes, preferences. Cats, see, she has preference for the warm. Straight away, as soon as I moved out, she got my chair. So that preferences are part of the machinery. But are you the machinery? Machinery is your binoculars. This is your vehicle. You're the lives. Life uses the machinery. If life has this type of instrument, this type of music will go out of it. But that music is not you. If there is a movement, again, to do the mind training, to learn patience, perseverance, beautiful, or whatever, beautiful. There is nothing wrong with anything. It's just safer regarding suffering if no credit is taken. If there is no one who takes credit. If there is no one who wants to figure it out or know. If there is a sense of relaxation and joy in the accepting unknowability and mystery of life. If there's any illusion that I know something, I worked it out, well, welcome to hell. Because now you have to remember it all the time. If you forget, oh shit, you fucked. That's, yeah. Not knowing and being totally at peace and totally comfortable, that's the freedom. Go on, Peter.
No, Josh.
No, I think
Josh, yeah.
What Peter has to say.
I forgot what I have to say now. Yeah, it'll come back.
Yeah, I just want to add there's a difference between preferences and seeking freedom or seeking spiritualness or mindfulness or you know, I mean, I was like that, you know, and I think that's what a lot of people do. Certainly I was a big seeker and seeking what's already there, you know, so when it was always under my nose, so it was great when we can end seeking. So yeah, I mean, anything can arise, meditation or whatever, you know, but when we're seeking for the relief of, you know, and it's just now you can laugh at it. We can laugh at it, you know, like just okay, you know what I mean. Do another course on spiritual, on the miracle. What is it? Course of Miracles or whatever. But good luck. Yeah.
So what did you do to drop that seeker?
I didn't do anything.
Yeah, good point. What do you do to drop the seeker?
You can't.
Yeah, say it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just so sick of it.
Sick of
So
it.
sick of it. And it's the biggest obstacle. I realize this nonsense. I actually really wish even I don't know, I just don't see any way for myself, and I just wish even I never really came across this to be so absorbed in it. And I can't drop it. And I totally see the nonsense, ridiculous way I'm carrying this on.
How do you know you haven't found it?
Well, I'm not free. That's how I know
How do you know? Comparing to what?
Comparing to even when I was totally in my ego state, not even knowing anything about awakening. Compare even with then, I'm worse off. Because what happened is, just desire just came, burned me. I didn't even know what it is when it did that to me. And I lost all my motivation in life, everything I liked, and it wasn't replaced with anything. And I'm just left with this nonsense, desperate seeker. And I'm just sick of this life. It's been 3 years. I mean, okay, in June will be 3 years, 2.5 years. And I'm just sick of it. I know this is my biggest obstacle. I'm totally, you mentioned that I'm totally evaluating all of my actions. Is this non-duality? What should I do? Should I accept? Should I let go? Should I do this? I mean, I'm sick of it. I'm not at all living life. I'm less living life than before when I was totally not knowing anything about spirituality, honestly.
Could I just say, I can really identify with what you're saying, because I went through the same thing a couple of years into this, I think. But there's nothing to seek. You are it. You are that. And I'm always trying to find that I've got to get to awareness and be more aware and drop this and drop that. But you've jump the shark sort of thing. You are that. You don't have to find anything or be anything. Or the mind just says, "I've got to find it. I've got to get there. It's over there, but it's not over there. You are there. You are that." You don't have to get there.
It's not a place to
Sorry,
get there.
I don't know any other way to say it. But
yeah. What did you do? How did you drop it?
Nothing.
It just ran out of its energy. It stops by itself.
Don't try and find it. You just realise you can't be anything else but that.
Right.
Did you want a mic?
No.
No?
Maybe
Simon?
The me will always try and find a way out. You know what I mean? And I think we're all here because most of us hit that brick wall. You know, we did everything to find. Yeah. So there's nothing you can do because you're not there. It's not happening. Yeah. But it's just relax a little bit more.
I find it very hard.
Is the recognition... Oh, go on, Adrian. Go on, yeah.
I was going to say, you know, the hell has been part of the journey. It really fucking has. If we're brutally honest here, you know what I mean? Like, we can say we're all floating around and everything, you know, everything's cool, but dark nights of the soul, whatever, you know, the me had to get to a point of, you know, that dream had to get really dark before some of it just snapped through sheer pain. But continually turning up to this stuff with some, I don't like to use the word gurus, but people who are speaking directly from the heart and the truth. And the truth inside me hears truth. And then it starts seeing through the false, that what I'm not. So those messages had to continually see through to see it, deconstructing the false narrative and stories as seeing this is bullshit. And it's a very practical investigation. It's a very fact-finding mission. If you look at this from almost a factual basis, you know, this is concepts that are moving all the time and changing. No wonder I thought I was 100 different people from time to time. You know what I mean? It was a different story, different day. Suddenly life is, one day is great, one day it's shit. It's the perspective and the filter creating that. So, yeah, it's just, you know, I've been here a few years, so it's just continually seeing this, and this has been a gradual opening. It hasn't been, there's been some big shunts, some big shunts, and there's nothing. It's just spaciousness, it's beautiful. And then, you know, something appears again out of that space to be looked at. So the hell is part of the journey, but it's fucking worth it. So, but I feel for, you know, compassion, I think, needs to come into this a lot, you know, because we can sit on this, you know, real deep compassion for the human struggle, you know. So that needs to be honoured and supported, and but these messages and these groups and this support can support the process, if you want to call it that. So thank you.
Also, I can't remember your name, Mitra. You're innocent, like nothing. There is no you. There is no mind, and the thoughts, the imaginary thoughts that get produced from that imaginary mind and the imaginary you, know nothing about the truth of what's happening. They just know absolutely nothing about it. They're just like wind or just some kind of passing thing that arises and dissolves. And so nothing created whatever it is that's happening there, and nothing will resolve whatever it is that's happening there. It's all just this timeless occurrence, but it's innocent.
I guess I should realize that in this moment, if I'm meant to write.
Sure, absolutely, or not, or not. Absolutely, absolutely.
I get it, but
sure,
I don't realize
sure,
it.
absolutely. No, there's nothing. You need, yeah.
You will
yeah.
never go.
Oh yeah, I'll remember now.
Freedom.
Thank you.
Freedom will come when you drop, but you won't get that.
I just have to sit and wait.
Yeah, that is really sad, but it's a profound realization what Simon just said. You keep it. We have another mic here. Yes, it's a profound realization. The me that so much wants to get it and so much wants to know, that me is a cloud that obscures the sky. That me will never ever find anything. You seem to be, and I love the way you actually said it. 3 years ago you weren't a seeker, you were identified as something else. And then you've identified as a seeker, and you seem to be stuck in that persistent identity. This is who I am. How am I get out of myself? You can't. You just have to realize that this is not who you are. You're not the seeker. Are you seeker when you eat your chocolate cake? Are you a seeker when you're struggling on your toilet? Or when you get up in the morning? Or when you have sex? You're not. If you notice that this persistent identity of seeker, this is who I am, it is only there when you look. Oh, who am I? Oh, I'm the spiritual seeker. I have to find it. I can't find it. This spiritual seeker identity is a costume. This is a dress. You don't have it all the time. You didn't have it 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, you were perfectly alive. You were fine. You were conscious. So you are not the seeker. Seeker is the voice that comes up, is a role. Like, people play roles in life. We have multitude of roles. We are mothers, fathers, daughters, friends. All those roles, we get into those roles. And sometimes we get stuck in one of the roles. I am a woman, I'm a feminist, or I'm a vegan, whatever the role is. When we get stuck in it, that kind of gets rigid and gets tight, and it feels wrong, because that's not who you are. You are the free, open field of consciousness, capable of being anything at once in the totality. But it is stuck in the role of the seeker. How do I get out? You do not. The seeker is a costume. How the costume, is the costume even aware of the consciousness? Is the seeker even, the role, even aware of the existence of life? This is a dead costume, it's a role. It is dead, it's not aware. So you are aware of the seeking pattern. Yes. But is the seeking pattern aware of you? No. So that seeking pattern is something that comes and goes on consciousness. But you are prior to that pattern. You are there when it comes and when it goes. When it comes, obviously, habitually, you straight away identify, put it on, this is who I am. But then when it goes, you still are. You may be a girl, or you may be a wife, or whoever you are, you may have different identity, but not this. So you are prior to all identities. Because it really is about recognizing what is already so. There is nothing you're going to get tomorrow or in future time. You either recognize it in this immediacy or you don't. If you recognize it, that's the moment of freedom. It's not that, I saw it, now I'm free forever. There is no I to be free forever. That's the paradox. Nobody gets enlightened because there is no one there who would claim the enlightenment. The I as a seeker, the I as a woman, the I as whatever, is dead.
Bob's
Isn't it? Isn't it?
Bob's alive.
Yeah. So that's really, really simple recognition. It's a shift out of the I. The me, the seeker, is never becoming a finder. There's no becoming. The seeker dissolves when you actually realize, and I love, that's why I wanted to highlight it, I love when you actually narrate that this started at a certain point. It has the beginning, and now it tortures, it pestering you. So it is something that appeared on the platform, on the pure consciousness of being. It appeared at a certain time. And you were before that, and you were better off. You said that. Much better off, you see? So this is not who you are. You're not the seeker. Even though it may feel like, this is more me than anything I've ever played in my life, because I was so in love with the truth. I so want it and I so desire it. It may feel like this is more of the core or heart of who I am than anything else, any other role. I remember being there, being so obsessed about the spiritual truth that every other role was neglected because of the obsession. But the truth is, the moment the realization, the shifting out of that persistent identity happens, identity is like a balloon that the air goes blown off it and it goes small and flat and that seeker, that balloon, it never gets anything. Or like clothing you take off and they discard it. They never get anything. Seeker never finds the truth. And no one finds the truth. The truth is that there is no one there. And if there is no one there is no desire for the truth. I don't know any truth. Because if there is any I, this is just a word. What the word can ever know? Nothing.
It's because the seeking actually adds another layer of conflict. That's the trouble. The seeking, prior to seeking, you're just dealing with all your day-to-day issues, and then you become a seeker and you add another layer of conflict, because then you start to think, well, I'm meant to become something beyond whatever the concept is. And there you go, you've got another layer of conflict on your ordinary life. And that's a killer. You see? That's the killer. I'm no longer there, I'm not enlightened, I've got to do this, I'm foolish, I've made a mistake, all the stuff that goes on. So you actually are worse off, but that's what has to be seen. The falseness of, you just have to work that one out, because that's all that's going on, that added layer of conflict, of not becoming.
I can't drop the thing. I mean, what to do until
so the idea of becoming,
the idea of becoming.
Is there truth in the idea of becoming?
I also think that enlightenment, if I put it this way, is an illusion.
Yeah.
Correct?
It is an illusion.
It is an
And
illusion.
yet all
There
those
is nowhere to
scriptures,
get. I know that.
That's a false
But
concept.
I don't know. I know that intellectually. But I can't drop this energy. I mean, when you said all this that is going to happen to me, and I see that there is no me and there is no seeker and whatever, what to do now until that happens? Because apparently I can't make that happen. Right? I just have to relax.
That's the working of the mind, though. No, but you might need to look at that's the operation of mind.
Yeah.
That's how the mind operates. I'm this and I'm going to become. That's the mind. So you have to see that that's how the mind works. Understand that's how the mind works. It's always going to think I'm not good enough. I'm this and I have to become. So you have to understand that that's how the mind works. The mind works that way. And that's what we've been taught, to think like that. We've been taught to think, and that's useful if you're learning to drive. Okay, I've got to learn this, that and the other. But when you see that's how the mind works. So it's applying that to this way of understanding, and it'll never work. You have to work. You have to see that that's how it works. That's all. That's how the mind works, and that's what we grapple with. That's our constant grapple. Is becoming. That's all. That's the problem.
There's one I like, which I heard here, and it really sunk in one day, and I realised the thinker is a thought. That there's actually someone here thinking all this is a thought.
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
It was really amazing. I suddenly realised that's all it is that I keep imagining there's someone here thinking it, that's going to do it, that's going to get it, that's going to change something. All of those are just thoughts.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And that's how thought works. That's what we don't. That's what we're never taught this. We're never shown this. Never taught. No, never. No one tells us this.
It's just not. Sorry. It's just not spiritual seeking. It's any form of seeking that creates that. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, spiritual seeking drugs, seeking sex, seeking money. It's still the same. The me claims ownership ownership. Forget about.
Yeah,
Sorry,
all the
we
same.
won't talk about that. But
Yeah.
you know, the ownership of that seeker is looking for what's already there. That's the problem. It's already there, but it's seeking, and it's endless. But there's a fear. There's a fear that the end of seeking may end that ownership. That all of a sudden, the me is not there. Yeah.
That's not conscious to me yet, but yeah, I know it's there.
The fear.
From
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
very little things.
But any form of seeking, yeah, is still in that trap, not just spiritual seeking.
Yeah.
And you know, so it's good you're here.
Yes, thank you.
I was going to say, and it's like the seeker is already too late. It's too late. Like the awareness of what we are is already, the isness is there, and then a seeker appears out of that isness through thought as a seeker. So seeking comes up through thought and creates this this character of a seeker. Like there's seeking, but there's no seeker, sort of thing. It's the identification with that thought as being a seeker.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's seeing through that, which is pretty tough. Well, I don't know, can be.
It is tough.
Yeah, but even saying it's tough, that goes back into thought, going, this is tough, and it just feeds into it. So going through thought to try and look for it, well, we'll never get it. It's seeing the whole story. Anything coming up through thought is already is already after what I already am.
But it's a habit, isn't it?
It's very much a thinking habit. The me is a thinking habit, and it's gives this illusion of continuity over a period of time, which doesn't actually exist. So it's like this me's created this story for all these years, but it doesn't actually exist. That's all because it's like memory. It's created this illusion of continuum over time, but it doesn't. Right now, that doesn't exist. Like the now doesn't even exist. Time doesn't exist. So memory is just concept of a me that isn't there, sort of thing.
Leave the microphone down the centre.
Yeah.
Everything is
We're going around the fun.
Yeah, what you're seeking, you already are. Start from the fact of your own being. That's all you got to do.
And yeah,
Start from any other point. You're lost.
relax of the mind. Thinking takes you away. Stop talking and thinking, because that
Just
makes you
relax.
move away from the truth. Yeah.
I just need to relax. That's
Totally.
all I need to do, but it's so hard.
You look.
Because mind can never get it. So the more mind, the less understanding.
Mitra, you look really good to me. You're fine right in this instant. Right?
Sorry?
You look really good to me. You look fine. Everything's good about you. Nothing wrong at all in this instant. Do you get that?
To you, but not to me.
Well, what's the difference between that and between me and you? There's nothing except that idea that's there, isn't there?
I'm just, yeah.
Just for an instant. Is it possible that you can change your mind? Do you change your mind? How often do you change your mind? Once every 5 seconds? You say that these things are always there. They're very strong. I can never get rid of them. It's always there. I'm always seeking. But is that true? That's not true. That's not true of you at all. In the next instant, you'll be thinking something entirely different. Where does that thought come from? It's not yours. You see, you let go of possession of all your thinking, and in this present moment, you'll be fine.
Whose thought is that? Just thought that whatever life is bringing up in here, right? It's not my thoughts, right?
I can't subscribe to that. Just leave all that alone. Let's just change the subject. That's the best way to go, isn't it? We can change our mind. That's the power we do have.
Thank you.
And I have just a couple of comments from people who are with us online. And thank you everyone for participation, for coming alive. I wish you did when we were sitting in silence initially, but thank you nevertheless. Jane says, Vivek says first, mind the mind. What a fantastic advice. Mind the mind. Yeah. it creates divisions and narrations. It is all mind-made, you know. Silence doesn't have any problem. What's wrong with right now? And then Jane says the narrative, the me, and the this is that is created in the memory, the response to the other person, place, or thing is just a story appearing on the awareness. There is no answers in the mind. There's no answers in the memory. Don't look for them there. Keith says priceless. Don't look for the answers. See who asks questions, because there is no one there. Enki says, living within the gift of the experience, there is something to be said for the taking it one day at a time, just like all the other life on earth does. I am within the free open field of consciousness while choosing the re-experience, the recognition of experience and freedom. Beautiful. One breath at a time, one day at a time. What's happening within the field? Beautiful. Jane says, who wants to know? That's a good question to remember too. Who is the questioner? Bob often asks. Questioner and the question arise and subside together. They're inseparable. Questioner and the question. They're just the same field of illusion. And Keith says, enlightenment is not a destination, it is your natural state. If you want to define, the natural state is probably a safer world. It doesn't bring all the... And that, I think, would be probably enough. We're 15 minutes over time, and thank you very, very much for coming and starting the so-called New Year with us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ben Bob. Happy New Year.